Hello, my lovely people of the crafting universe. Today we will be making an art journal page which includes a stained glass window. A very simple but very effective and beautiful, if I may say so myself, stained glass window. And to do that I will be using one of my all-time favorite dies, which is this poppy seed head aperture die from Clarity. This is a very good quality die, but I've tested it to the limit because I was using a 350-gram paper, which is a really thick paper, almost cardstock, to cut the die. And as you see, it cut perfectly except one corner, and I guess even that could be avoided if I realize that I need to turn my cutting plates and run them through my die cutting machine in different direction. But I'm very happy how this die managed even this very thick paper. Now I'm covering my page with gesso using a silicone brush, and this was a very simple cosmetic brush which does the job perfectly. And I'm using the same brush to apply some modeling paste, and my modeling paste is quite thin because it was going dry, and I used some white acrylic paint to make it thinner, and now it is really very well pliable, and it's very easy to apply it even using a silicone brush. So I didn't even get out my spatula. I used the same brush, less cleaning up to do. So I'm adding some rays through the stencil, and then because we are working with a window we need a wall, so I will be getting out a brick wall stencil, and I'm applying the modeling paste not all over the page but just here and there to suggest a brick wall. So I did some bricks on one side of my window, now a little bit on the top. As you know, for art journal pages we are not striving for perfection, so we don't need straight brick lines. You can apply the modeling paste just very freely, not thinking about finishing all the perfect straight-edged bricks. And a little bit on the other side. I think that might be enough. Oh no, a little bit on the other corner too. Yeah, I think now it's perfect. To add some more interest, I'm adding some text stamp with which includes a little bit of swirls, and I'm bravely using black ink simply because I will be adding other layers on top, so the black will fade into the background and just add some little detail in the background. And again, just touching the stamp here and there without worrying about getting a perfect impression. And when that's all dry, I'm getting out my my dry pastels, my dry pastel crayons, and adding color. I really like working with them because it's so easy. You just need to barely touch the paper, and the powder comes off and stays on the paper. I'm choosing very bright colors to correspond with my stained glass window, which will come later. So I'm choosing oranges and yellows and purples and blues. I'm touching the paper with the crayon and then using my fingers to smudge the powder a little bit, to smudge it into the paper. Only thing I need to pay attention to is to use different finger for each color so that I don't make a brown mud on my paper. And a little bit of, I think, purple, yes, or blue. When that is done, I'm covering my workspace because I'm bringing out the spray bottle with vintage photo ink and just spraying lightly the page. What this does to the powder is it sort of unites it, sort of dilutes it, and the page now looks united, but you can still see all the beautiful color we put down. I'm very happy how this works. I have been trying this technique just recently, putting the spray ink on top of the pastel powder, and I'm very happy about the results I'm getting. Now let's turn to our window. I'm planning to emboss it, so I could use embossing ink, but because I have to emboss quite a large area, I've decided to use Glazing Medium, which is a liquid that you use to make acrylic paint transparent. And the beauty of Glazing Medium is that it is sticky, so I can easily put on a layer of embossing powder and it will stick. And because I'm applying it with a brush, I can apply a really generous amount, and that is what I want. I want my embossing to be really thick and uneven at the end. So I thought that the glazing medium is the best choice. And I'm applying it on my die cut portion and also a little bit on the part where the die cut joins the page itself. I want the embossing sort of flow into the page. So when that is done, I'm changing the background and applying embossing powder, and I will be using this magical stuff, which is one of the set Apter's embossing powders from his baked texture line, and I'm applying patina oxide embossing powder, and it is greenish black embossing powder, which really looks like an oxidized metal when melted. This stuff is magic. If you have a chance to check out the baked texture embossing powders by Seth Apter, please do. They are beautiful and they give you really wonderful effects. And I'm putting on a really generous amount of the powder because, as I said, I want a really thick layer of embossing. The rest of the powder goes back in the jar. And out comes the heating tool, and let's enjoy this moment of watching how the embossing powder melts. I'm starting from the bottom of the page because, as I said, my embossing powder is laid on in quite a thick layer and I don't want it to fly all over the place. And when it starts to melt, I can go in with my embossing tool from the top side of the page. Is it just me, but I really like watching the embossing powder melt. And I really enjoy the final result. It really looks like an oxidized metal, like metal bars in front of the window, or like the metal part of the stained glass window. Wonderful, I'm very happy. Then I'm quickly going around my page with the blacking to sort of frame it and to draw your eye to the stained glass window even more. I'm using the blacking because it was on my table from the stamping. And now to the magic itself. Let's make the stained glass window. I'm using a piece of plastic on which I'm dropping little drops of alcohol ink. And I chose the brightest inks I have, the brightest greens, magenta, pink, purple, red. And I'm trying to drop really tiny drops because the ink really spreads on the plastic. And I want to keep it a little bit controlled, a little bit smaller areas for each color. This process, of course, is not controllable. The ink does what it does. And alcohol ink is interesting in that way that it doesn't mix. So the one droplet of ink just pushes away the other droplet of ink. And I'm not happy at this moment how the middle part of my window is getting red. So the red ink is taking over. So I'm adding little droplets of other colors. There is no right or wrong here, just playing with inks. And if you are not really happy with what's happening, just wait for it to dry, which takes just a couple of seconds, and go in with another color, which I am doing here. I'm putting on my page just to check if I'm happy with the result. No, still not happy, decided to add a touch of pink. And when it's dry, I'm going around the window with a very serious glue, which is a tacky glue, just to make sure that my plastic later is not going anywhere. And putting my page on top and gluing it down. You can already start to see the beauty of the window. Pressing it down very well, and just to make sure a big book goes on top. So while the glue is drying, that gave me time to print a sentiment, which is a quote from a poem by, I wrote it down, which is a quote from a poem by Mario Benedetti, which says that sometimes life throws little stones of joy into my window. Oh. And I'm using art glitter glue, which is the best glue for gluing paper to paper in my book. And the last thing to do is to draw some black lines around the quote to make it sit better in the page. I'm cutting off the excess plastic, and here it is. Oh, and I managed to catch some sunshine. Isn't it gorgeous? I'm leaving you with some still photos of this page, and if you liked it and you would like to see more pages like this, please click the subscribe button and leave a comment, and choose another video to watch to get some inspiration for your art journal pages. Bye bye, see you soon.